No money back? We'll see about that. I'm not 100% certain this is an MC, but I'll let you be the judge. TLDR at the end. A few years ago when my kids were 3 and 7, we were looking for a new car for my wife. After scouring AutoTrader, we are in the UK. We saw a Mazda Exedos 6. Decent mileage. Couple of owners. In a small Traders down south. It was about an hour away, so we hopped in my car and went to look at it. We arrived at the site, which had some decent looking cars, and it was a nice and tidy place, so didn't ring any alarm bells. We were greeted by one of 2 Romanian brothers who seemed knowledgeable and pretty free of the hard sell. I had a look round the car. Very little rust. Oil looked clean. Tidy inside with not too much wear. The only 2 things I found was the head unit panel was not in place correctly, and one of the brackets by the engine had a bit of a dent in it. But it was a non-functional bracket and it didn't appear to have a prang, so okay. Took it for a test drive and it was okay. My wife liked it, so we paid part cash, part card. A few days later, after sorting the insurance, we went and collected it. By the time we got home, my wife got out and immediately said, "There's something wrong with this car." I took it for a drive and yes, it had low power. Sounded terrible and didn't feel safe. I immediately rang them and they were pleasant enough and said bring it back and they would have their garage look at it. The same garage that had modded it barely 2 weeks earlier. I said I didn't want to bring it back and would pay out of my pocket to get it assessed by my garage. They didn't like this, but I didn't give them a choice. After a couple of days of being at my local garage, who we have used for years and trust, even though they are a bit pricey, we got the report. It ran to 2 pages, which I will summarize using the comment the mechanic gave us when we picked it up. Mechanically, this is the worst car I have ever seen. How it passed an MO is beyond me. You wouldn't have seen it on a visual inspection. But this is a nail. Oh dear. So I rang the dealer and sent them the report. Again pleasant enough. Said bring it back and we can discuss it and sort out the refund. Cue the MC. So the following Saturday, now 1.5 weeks since we bought it, we all trooped back down there and walked into their little Portocabin office. The 2 brothers were sat there with faces like slapped asses. I will tell you now, sir, you will not be getting a refund today. Not until our garage has checked it. My wife and I looked at each other and our hearts sank. What followed was an hour of back and forth, with me explaining that we were within our rights to a full refund within 30 days of purchase. Now this is true for goods in the UK, but I had no idea if this applied to vehicles. After an hour, my wife and I stepped outside. The kids were getting bored and fractious. "What are we going to do?" says my wife. "Well, I'm not leaving without a refund," I said. Agreed. And that was it. We went back into that office. We argued back and forth, revisited the same point over and over while the kids moaned, cried, begged to leave. But we sat there, and we argued, very calmly, very matter-of-factly, without getting angry or raising our voices. At a couple of points, one brother left to serve people who had walked into the yard. And at one point he came in with another couple who were interested in a car. They heard us talking. I slyly shook my head at the couple, and they backtracked and left. One of the brothers was raging behind his eyes. They threatened to call the police. I begged them to do it so we could clear this up and leave. They didn't. After, and I am not exaggerating, 5 hours of this, my wife and I stepped out and were stood just outside the office door. "Look, we can't stay here my longer. The kids are hungry and tired and mental," my wife says. I saw the door open barely an inch. "Okay, take my car and go and feed them. I'm not leaving. I think I'll just call the police and get this sorted. But if I have to stay here until tomorrow morning, we are getting our money back," I said. I noticed the door close again. Really? She said. Just give it a minute. Let's go back in a sec. Okay, she says, looking irritated. We go back in and one brother is counting out cash on the table. At this point it's early evening. Sir, the deal we will do is, we will give you a full refund. If you don't mention this car on any review site. It was X in cash and X on a card, yes? Quote, less than 5 minutes later we were back in our car leaving the nail behind. Cash in hand and card refunded. We had found a pub that does food and were heading there rapidly. The kids were okay now they knew food was near. With everything sorted, my wife and I looked at each other for a second and cheered. Whooped, hollered, banged the steering wheel, making the little lad cry, bless him. We could not believe that after 5 hours of back and forth, crying kids, belligerent salesmen, we had won. We had flipping well won. This sort of thing never happened to us. And yet there we were. We felt like the kings of the world and no one would ever mess with us. TLDR. Buy a nail of a car. Invited to take it back for a refund. No refund offered. We stay for 5 hours scaring other customers away until we walk out with a refund in full. Quick edit. Wow, thanks for the comments and upvotes. A lot of people are saying I should name and shame. You are right, I probably should have, but I didn't, and it was 5 years ago. So I can't even remember the name of the place or the garage where the mow was done. I can't imagine they stayed in business long, tbh. The fact that you had the fortitude to sit there for 5 hours is truly amazing. However, your kids were the real stars here. An upvote for them. Dear Sir, my brother and I were very unhappy to find a post about this vehicle on the popular internet review site reddit.com. As you even state in your review, part of the agreement for the refund was that you would not mention this vehicle on any review site. As you have violated the terms of the refund, we will be showing up at your house with our hungry and irritable children until you return the refund. Report the garage who gave the car and mow to the DVSA. https www.gov.uk/guidance/reportanmatester. You never promised not to report the garage, right? Grin. They threatened to call the police. I begged them to do it so we could clear this up and leave. They didn't. My favorite part of this story. Your kids deserve medals. Well played, all of you. More consumers need to have the resilience you both showed. Well done. I always have my mechanics check out any car I want to purchase. I've had them tell me not to buy a car I was interested in. It was worth the $50 they charge for their service. Most garages charge around $200. You were correct in that you were legally entitled to that refund. The car was not roadworthy, and you were not made aware of this prior to the sale. The dealer didn't have a leg to stand on. I hope you did leave an honest review after the fact. Congratulations. You did it! Exclamation mark. Feels like they swapped around parts between you test driving the car and picking it up. Test drive it on new parts. By the time you have paid for it and picked it up, they have switched them around for the parts that were originally on it. Mo comes back clean because they tested the car when it had new parts in. This might not be feasible, of course. I don't know enough about car mechanics to say for certain whether this is financially viable. But if they had a lot of used cars of the same make, it's entirely possible that this is what they were doing. You wouldn't need to post an online review to make their lives miserable. A report to the Mo with the paperwork provided by your mechanic should be enough to start an investigation. They would probably find a pattern of unsafe vehicles being passed by the seller's mechanic, and could bring two shady businesses down for the price of one. Don't really see the MC here. But glad you got your money back. I never buy a used car without first taking it to a workshop I trust for an inspection. And I tell all my friends to do the same. Saves us the trouble of going through what you did. Especially when our car prices are typically 6x yours. Here in the US, that would be called a lemon. It's apparently UK in origin. I like your story. Congratulations on beating the shady used car salesman. Let me know which part was the malicious compliance. I can't find it. Do they have a service like Carfax in the UK? That could help you in the future. And of course you immediately went and mentioned it on every review site. Along with the attempted blackmail. Right? So don't mention the car in the review. It took hours and lots of complaining, but this dealership did refund our money when the car we coming to pick up turned out to have major problems. I won't discuss the car, as I promised not, so that they would give me the refund that day. Just that we notified them of the problems within minutes of starting the car. Even had an independent mechanic confirm them. 100%. The day after I bought my pride and joy, I got a check engine light. They had to have cleared the code before I drove and bought it. Boy, was I ready to stick to my guns. The dealer feigned ignorance. Very much doubt they were unaware of this. And I made very sure they paid for the repairs necessary. 120k later and not a single engine problem or issue. Any place that is reluctant or refuses to let your own mechanic check a car you're looking to buy is a huge red flag. That would be like going to buy a house and sellers refusing to let you have your home inspector look at it and insist that their inspector said it was fine. Definitely should still put a review of your experience there. Like TF are they gonna do lol.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.